Hi, this is Reading Adam, back after, I don't know, years. And I'm sitting out on my back deck, just enjoying the beautiful spring weather in the year of our Lord 2024. And I've been thinking recently, and I wanted to record this video, which will be short. And I wanted to record something about the kind of book videos that I've been watching recently. Just a smattering, really just a smearing of videos that I've been checking out by other people who make channels about books, who are far, far more successful as far as the numbers go, as say myself. And their production is kind of professional looking. They have nice voices, they have a nice cadence to their speech, and so on. But I just found the videos to be lacking. And not lacking in production value or the trying to think of the word here, the sizzle. The sizzle is nice for many of these videos, but the meat is I've just been disappointed in, because I occasionally will just say, hey, what are people talking about with books and reading? And I want to find information out. I want to learn myself, because I am not at the peak pinnacle, the zenith of learning for my own self. Any one of us can always improve. And while I don't disparage anyone making videos, I encourage anyone out there listening to this, just make your own videos. Just do it. It's nice. It's a hobby. Don't think of it as like a job. Just think of it as a hobby. And I haven't made a video in years because I didn't feel like it, even though I had hundreds of books that I could have reviewed. But what I wanted to mention in this video is what do I wish I could find that I have been struggling to find on YouTube. Usually you can find just about anything you want, but lately I have not, at least as far as book stuff goes. Again, I've just been kind of browsing, and a lot of the heavily viewed things are popping up. I almost wish I could, and maybe I can, search by less views, because I'm noticing a lot of videos that have 1 million plus views just don't seem to offer anything of value. So unless it's something highly specific, or you're just looking for entertainment, and that's what you get. But what do I wish I could find on these videos that I'm talking about? Just videos about books, not necessarily a book review, not necessarily a discussion about a book, but more like about the act of reading itself, the meta reading, kind of like metacognition, the thinking about thinking. Well, I'm thinking about thinking about reading, meta reading. And what I wish I could find is, I'll just run through a few of them so that I don't spend too much time in whatever this is called, an introduction. I wish I could find a video from my old professor, who was obviously very well read and loved reading books, but I never knew how he read books. I knew he read a lot of books. He had tons of recommendations. It was clear that he had read, I'm just repeating myself. Yes, he read a lot of books. He's a history professor. Of course he's going to read a lot of books. But I didn't know how he approached a book. I didn't know how critical he was when he read a book, how closely he read, when he decided not to read closely, when he decided to scan a book, or when he decided to put a book down. Like when would it be important for him to decide this book is not worth it? how much chance does he give a book? You know, and when he decides he's going to read about a new subject, how does he go about that? I wanted to hear these things and learn about them from somebody who's already well read and who's a professor. And I just want to see how a professor that I respect and admire, who obviously loves books, how they go about it. Because one thing I've noticed for myself is the older I get and the more that I read, the choosier I get when it comes to finding a book to read. I become much more picky, much more picky, because I know I'm going to read the book. So I want to choose something that I'm definitely going to read and maybe benefit from, and something that'll be worth my time, because I'm spending more time on books than I used to. I used to just read through them to get to the next and to rack up the numbers. But now, as I mature in my reading, as I grow tired of just reading through books, I want to extract as much as I can from a book. And part of that is learning how others read, other accomplished readers who need to use reading in their profession. That's a place to start, because I don't have a profession that requires me to read. It's just a hobby. It's just a pastime. So I'd be interested in that. I would be interested in knowing how authors read books, both fiction authors and nonfiction authors. I'm interested in how those types approach books, how they read, what they choose to read, and what they look for in their reading, especially for the nonfiction, and especially if they're doing research for, if it's not reading so much, but if it's more research for a topic that they're interested in. Well, how do they do that? How do they conduct their research? How do they decide what to read, where to go to find material? And sometimes I just want the details. I don't know what to do with those details per se. I don't even know if they would be helpful. But sometimes it would be nice to just know it was accessible or there, so that maybe you can use such knowledge as reference in the same way that we use books as reference. An encyclopedia or a dictionary or a book on philosophy or history or whatnot, what have you. So I wish I could find a channel by an accomplished author, accomplished novelist. I want to know the guy who's written 30 novels. How does he read novels? What does he look for? How does he approach them critically? And when he comes across a character, how can he tell that this character is written well or not? You know, what does he immediately notice? What does he pick up on? Kind of like somebody like a senior programmer going through a program through the code, and they immediately pick up on things that a junior programmer would not see at all. They'll see that the logic is bad or things could be rewritten. They'll see that there's extra stuff that doesn't need to be there. They can just read it right away, and they can pick up on it quickly and know what it's doing. Whereas the junior is going to be plotting. He doesn't know what he's even looking for. It's a difficult, dangerous process for him. It's the same thing with, like, if somebody's an author, I assume they read a lot. I assume with all their writing that they do and their mastery of the written word and language itself, that they read a book much differently than I do. Just like how I'm rereading the Lord of the Rings trilogy right now. And at age 40, I'm reading it much differently, and I dare say better than when I read it as a teenager right before the movies came out. So I know that just through virtue of age, I read books differently than how I used to read them. So by virtue of somebody's increased experience with the written word, with language, maybe understanding multiple languages and roots of words, studying vocabulary, understanding vocabulary to a greater depth than just recognizing words, but knowing where the definitions came from, what cultures developed them, maybe why the word developed, just, because Tolkien, I'm just thinking about Tolkien here, he's a professor of philology, which is the study of language. And I just marked a passage in The Two Towers where he used a smattering of, there's that word again, smattering. He used a smattering of descriptive words for landscape, land features that I almost never come across. And I have to look them up because while I recognize the words, I don't know what they mean, and I certainly can't picture what they are saying. But he was a professor of philology. He studied language. He knew language to a great depth. And this, of course, informed his writing and probably his reading as well. I'm curious how Tolkien read other works. Could you imagine writing something and then Tolkien reads it? What's he going to say about it? So I'd like to hear more reviews, and I'd like to hear more from people who have a lot of depth, who are senior level in the reading arts. Kind of like how it's much more enjoyable and beneficial to listen to a professional fitness person, like there's this guy he's a professor, he has a doctorate, he's a professor of, I don't know if it's some kind of physical science having to do with exercise, and he himself is a bodybuilder. And I watched some of his views of reviewing people's workouts, and it was amazing because, I mean, yes, he was very entertaining. There's high production quality to his content, but his knowledge was at a level that was far higher than like if it was just some gym bro talking about workouts. And I feel like when I watch a lot of videos about reading and books, I feel like I'm getting the gym bro version and not the doctoral professor version. Sometimes you can find stuff ancient by actual professors and people who are much more, I don't want to say competent, but much more experienced in the field and in the process of thinking about what you're reading and understanding what you're reading, and then somehow utilizing what you're reading for greater purposes. And I don't feel like I get a lot of that from a lot of the channels that I've seen, these little, like, what does science do to the brain when you read? I don't care. I don't think anyone cares, really. I don't think it matters what science says what reading does to the brain. The point is you are reading. Now, how can you make the most of that? Rather than, hey, I'm reading, something's happening to my brain. Believe me, after reading many, many books, it doesn't matter what happens to the brain. It's like, hey, playing video games is good for the brain. Yeah, sure, whatever. I've played many video games that hasn't translated to anything other than just the act of playing video games. So I want to see book stuff out there, and I will still have to look for it. And if you know of anything, certainly leave a comment and describe or link a channel. I mean, that would be nice. If you found somebody who reviews books, who is they themselves an accomplished author, or they themselves are just have a different life experience that gives them a depth to their understanding of what they're reading. Certainly everybody reads a book differently. If you need proof of that, the Bible is all the proof you need. Everybody reads it differently. Everybody gets something else out of it, and it's its own form of theology. And then, of course, the church, several different kinds of churches actively war against people interpreting for themselves. And so that's always been kind of a thing. Professors kind of try to help students to understand things from a perspective that is perhaps maybe more aligned with the correct perspective, the correct reading of a text. If you take a Shakespeare course, or if you take a course on Milton or on Charles Dickens or somebody, or even A Course on the Hobbit. You know, maybe there are ways to look at it that are more appropriate than others. Okay, I'm at 15 minutes here. I'm going a bit long. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wish I could find. I suppose I wish I could find more live, and I'm going to do this for you guys at some point. I want to see more live reading. I want to see more somebody giving an example of how they read by actually reading a book and walking us through kind of like a first-person perspective of like, okay, I'm reading this, now I'm looking at this. This makes me think of this. Okay, I understand this to be this, or this to be that. And okay, this doesn't make sense to me. This seems badly written. This seems like garbage. This seems like filler to me. This seems poorly edited. This seems very well done. This is well cited. I can find this citation. This seems opinionated, bigoted, whatever, however somebody reads, their thought process and what's going through their mind as they read. Even just like a one page of a book, you know, just open up a Charles Dickens book and read the page and then just kind of briefly discuss it as you read. I feel like this is what we do in school. This is what we did in school, but I haven't been in school in decades, so that doesn't apply to me anymore. I'm just a lonesome person, not lonesome per se, technically, but just one guy reading books and nobody to share that with, for the most part. Because those who I would share it with, they're not reading the same book as me. They're not interested in that material, whereas I am. So that's more of what I would like to see, and I will demonstrate what I'm kind of looking for in the future with some of my videos. Currently I'm reading through Genius by James Gleick, I believe his name is. Gleick. And it's about Richard Feynman. And I'm only part of the way into the book. I still have a lot to read, but I'm thinking about, instead of just finishing a book and talking about it, I'll just do snippets here and there. I might just do small portions of like, this is where I'm at right now in this book. I don't even know if I'll finish the book. It doesn't matter if I do or not. And I'm going to talk about that in another video, about this weird desire we have to finish everything we start, to finish every book we start, to read every word. And some people are great. They're already well beyond that. They don't suffer from that defective personality anymore, or at all. Maybe they never did. And they always have used books in whatever fashion that they feel like. And that is something that it took me years to overcome myself, to go from a numbers reader to actually reading and feeling like I'm getting a lot out of my reading. So I just want to be able to shortcut that for other people so they don't go through a difficult, painful process in a more intimate, like deeper understanding way than just, I'm sorry if you hear wind. I'm sitting outside and it's windy, so I don't know if the mic is picking that up or not. But I want to shortcut things for people so that they don't have to suffer through things that, yes, everybody talks about. Yes, you should reread books. You should go about reading this way and that way. But if they don't, I feel like sometimes if you don't go into a greater depth of argument, if you don't explain it more deeply and more personally, it could be lost on somebody, as many things are lost on young people. I feel like we lack the ability to educate young people in a way where what you teach them is not lost on them. And I speak from experience here, where many things were lost on me when I was younger. I intellectually understood what was told to me, and I knew the advice, hey, this is sound advice, but it was lost on me in that I just did not act on it at all. And sometimes you don't need somebody necessarily to act on something, but to reduce the pain they have of what will happen if they don't act on it. So to reduce somebody from sure, knock yourself out, read as many books speed read as many books as you can for like a few months, knock yourself out with that, and then go back to reading slowly again, and rereading, and making more time for the book you're reading, and actually thinking about what you're reading instead of just visually processing it and then moving on. So I think that's all I want to speak about today, and I'll upload this video to my channel now. No, I don't know. Maybe you'll never see this, you guys. But no, I will continue on with the channel. I think that's what I want to do as a hobby, of course. There were a lot of reasons why I didn't make videos, but I no longer choose to accept those reasons, and I choose to accept making videos, even if it's just me talking into my phone like this, which again, very low production value, but I'm trying to insert my production value into the words that I speak instead of you seeing a bunch of images and fancy editing and me with self-deprecating humor being randomly inserted to give a chuckle halfway through a video or something like that. So anyways, thank you for watching if you did watch this. And again, leave a comment if you know of any amazing channels that are not just gimmicky, flashy, that are not just sizzle, but contain significant meat. And I'd be happy to take a look at some of them. Thank you. Bye.